We're here in Bellevue, Ohio. We're here at the Mad River and Nickel Plate Railroad Museum. Just tell me about this Mr. Flagler.
Like I say, Mr. Flagler, when he lived here, he was involved and married a Harrison. His wife's name was Harrison, and they ran the Harrison Grain Company. So that's where Mr. Flagler got a lot of his money through the grain business here in town. And then years later, a businessman in Cleveland wanted him to be a silent partner in one of his functions, and that was Mr. Rockefeller, and so they became part of the Standard Oil Company. Years later, Mrs. Flagler's health, the doctor said that she needed to move to a southern climate, so that's when Mr. Flagler moved down south, down into Florida. That's when he started the Florida East Coast Railway, started building hotels down in Miami, run the rail line all the way out to Key West.
Right.
And then I know the people in Miami wanted to name a few things after him, and he was so modest that he said he didn't want nothing named after him because Miami's now in Dade County. But you go to the county a couple north of it, there's a Flagler County, there's a Flagler College.
Right. And yeah, we've been there. But okay, so his residence was right here where we're at.
Right here, yeah. If you can see where the two pine trees are, that would be the front of the residence.
And then the church, that's the church they went to right next door.
Went to us next door to us, and then the carriage house still stands in the back of the property here.
Okay. There's Lakeside and Marblehead Railroad Company, Pittsburgh Safe Company. It's quite the safe. Now, here's Lincoln's funeral train bell. And that's that bell right there they have on display. Now, here's a replica of the old steam engine Sandusky. This one, the replica is made out of wood and plaster Paris, but it looks pretty good. Yeah, this was the Mad River and Lake Erie Railroad. That's quite the name, Mad River. And here's the nickel plate. And here's Wheeling and Lake Erie caboose. And here's a Rail Express REA truck. We'll go up in the Wheeling and Lake Erie caboose here. Here's the adding machine that was used by the REA in the office. Well, that's pretty quite the adding machine. Old typewriters. There's a lot of stuff, trunks, and another safe they've collected. Water cans. Now here's a silver dome that they've acquired. They're still trying to get it restored. And I think the other one is, I'm not sure, I think it's a diner. I'm not real sure what it is. It's an old Amtrak. But I believe it's a diner. Those two they're trying to restore. And then they've got a couple here that are open that you can walk through. Been a lot of years since I've been on one of these. I traveled on the Zephyrs when I was a kid. You know, you put your suitcases up overhead and those were the days. Okay, go to the other car. These are the sleepers here that we're in. The Mad River and Lake Erie Railroad was the second railroad to be built and operated in Ohio. It was also the first railroad company chartered west of the Allegheny Mountains. Now here's a Plymouth switcher built in 1943, and then here's a 2-bay hopper built in 1926, and there's an old Milwaukee. I'd say coach. There's an old reefer. It's an interesting place. Of course, today it is hotter than hot here. The heat wave came from the west, and it's over here in Ohio today. So we'll go into the little depot here. Here's the baggage, the old baggage car. Of course, the scale. Here's some plates, collectible plates down there, and tickets.
Henry Morrison Flagler, 1830 to 1913, a founder of the Standard Oil Company. Henry Morrison Flagler spent his informative years in Bellevue and began his business career here in 1844, building his home near this site in 1858. He first became associated with John D. Rockefeller as a fellow grain merchant. The two later formed the Standard Oil Company in 1870 with capital partially furnished by members of the local Harness family. Standard Oil became America's largest and most powerful corporation in the late 1800s, and Flagler used his wealth to develop the state of Florida. His Florida East Coast Railroad, known as the Railroad Over the Sea, extended from Jacksonville to Key West, Florida, the cities of Miami, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and St. Augustine grew with Flagler's intensive development efforts.
There's a NW equipment maintenance instruction car here. Now here's a Baltimore and Ohio S4. Okay, this car here is what they carried all the army troops on here. It's called the Troop Sleeper. Several thousand of these cars were built by Pullman Standard Car Company between 1943 and 1946. They were used to transport our fighting troops across the country to head off the war. Most of these cars were converted to regular boxcar service after the end of World War II and came to the museum in 1995. Now we'll walk down this way, and they do have a lot of, there's another caboose here. But you can't really get into them. Dynamometer's car. And here's a RSD 12. Here's New York Central and the nickel plate. Here's a JP30.
Yeah, it was built in 1944. It worked Bellevue from 1944 to 1958. It was officially retired in 59. And then by then it was a Norfolk and Western Railroad. And the railroad wanted to donate it to Bellevue. Bellevue didn't have a place to put it back in 1966, so it went to Pennsylvania, to a museum in the Railroad Museum in Pennsylvania. And then in 2017, the museum in Pennsylvania didn't want it. They were going to scrap it. And we said, we want it, so we traded them a passenger car for this.
Well, that was a good trade.
It was a good trade.
Well, I've never been able to trade a passenger car for a locomotive. Now, how far is it restored?
We're never going to get it.
You never get it running?
We're never going to get it running again. We're going to cosmetically restore it.
Okay.
So it looks like a steam engine.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like what the Nickel Plate Road ran
right
as a steam engine.
This is the Berkshire.
This is a Berkshire engine.
Yeah.
The engine itself is 440,000 pounds, and the tender is 360,000 pounds loaded, so it's 800,000 pounds together, loaded.
So how they brought it by rail then when they drug it down here?
Yeah, we brought it by rail because if you notice on the steam engine, the main driver's missing.
Yeah.
The main driver runs from here.
Yep.
Runs from the pocket here
To there.
back there to the driver.
Yep. So this freewheeled.
So this freewheeled back from Pennsylvania to
Yep.
here.
Just oil it up and off we
And
go.
off we go. And
1942,
General Electric 45 tonner or 44 tonner,
44 tonner.
and it's 300 horsepower. We have twin 150 horse Cummins diesel engines, one on each side. And what makes this engine unique is the Cummins engine drives the alternator, which drives just this axle, which has the electric traction motor on it. And then we have a connecting rod with counterweights to get to the front axle to make it an all-wheel drive engine.
Right.
And that's because in September of 1942, we were at war and copper was hard to come by. And so they figured if we drop a traction motor and put on a cast iron connecting rod, you still got an all-wheel drive switch engine.
Okay, what do we got here?
This is a Kalamazoo bus, Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's a 1955, and the bus body is actually down in Columbus, Ohio right now getting fixed. And it looks like a little yellow school bus,
Right.
is what it looked like, and it seats 12 people. And it was used mainly for railroad inspection or for the executives to go back and forth. Then the nickel plate road, it's actually nickel plate road bought it. It was numbered X100 was the nickel plate number for it. And the nickel plate got absorbed by Norfolk and Western. Norfolk and Western used it for maintenance, for the maintenance crew to run back and forth to job sites.
Right.
It's a typical bus, because Kalamazoo made regular buses, and it's got a Ford V8 in it. And if you step back, you can get the Ford transmission right behind it, which is typical Ford
Yep,
speed
there it is.
transmission. Which I don't understand. The transmission has reverse in it, but you go back to the back end, and that has a forward and reverse in it, so you can actually put the rear pumpkin in reverse, and then the transmission in reverse, and you're going to go forward, which
Yep.
is kind of goofy.
Yeah.
And then we made a new fuel tank for it. This is the original dashboard that was in it, but we made a new one to replace it, so it's more convenient. And we're hunting for an air compressor, because this has air brakes in it. You got the two air cylinders for the air brakes.
Oh, okay.
And then the main air tank underneath, but we don't have a compressor, which
We need to get.
we need to get. And as far as we know, the engine does turn over, but we haven't started it in a while. But our intention is to get this running probably by the end of the year, and we hope to have our body by the
Well, if we're
by the
back
end of the
next year, we'll stop by and see how you progressed.
Okay.
I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.